Hello and welcome back, guys. This is Ibrahim Qureshi here, and today we are going to start the next session on storage, which is going to be RDMs, raw device mapping. So let's get started. For those of you who do not know me, my name is Ibrahim Qureshi, and I've been teaching virtualization since 3 years, and this session is basically dedicated for storage, and the topic we are going to deal with today is RDMs. So if you have any doubts about RDM, be sure to basically watch this session completely, and I'll also give you a demo on how to attach RDMs and their pros and cons along with it. Okay, then don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell for updates from me. Let's get started. So we have covered module 1 introduction and the installation for vSphere and vCenter, and then we covered other topics like virtual machine templates and OVF and clones as well. Now today we are going to deal with storage. Let's get started with that. Okay, so in storage, in the previous session we have done how to create LUNs and how to attach data stores in our virtual environment, how to extend the data stores, and we have done how to create a data store cluster. I have actually provisioned a couple of new LUNs so that I can provision a completely new data store cluster, because in the previous session we could not create it because the data stores were shared across different data stores were shared across different clusters, and it was not it was not allowing me to create a cluster, and so I couldn't show you completely, but maybe I will do another session on that. Anyway, focusing on today's session, which is raw device mapping, RDM. Now first question which may come up is why do we need RDM, right? So why do we use RDM? Usually we need RDMs when you want to share a disk across two virtual machines. There can be a couple of use cases. I have written down here Quorum disk for Microsoft clustering. That is one example or a use case, and you can also use this on SQL databases. Also for failover clustering, especially if you're having Microsoft clustering and you want to do active and passive mode of clustering, you will need physical RDM. Okay, so let's look into it a little bit more detailed. So RDM basically are of two types. One is physical RDM and one is virtual RDM. So when we create RDMs, you can basically attach it as physical when we do the configuration, and that basically gives you a couple of options like what you can do and what you can't do, but there are advantages and disadvantages which we'll look in the next slide. For now, just remember we have two types of RDMs, physical and virtual. Okay, virtual RDM and physical RDM, and then when we go and attach these RDMs, we have to add a separate disk storage controller, which we call. So it has to be separate from the existing virtual VMDK which are attached to the storage. So if you have already got C&D drive, they are already on a storage controller 0. So what you will have to do is create a new storage controller first, and then this new RDM which you are presenting, you have to make sure you attach it to a different basically a separate storage controller. It is possible to attach it on the same one as well, but for performance as well you would want it to be on a different storage controller. Okay, and then as I was talking, when we are basically attaching it, you will get an option for compatibility mode. You will select whether you want to have it on a virtual or a physical. Now there are two different things and they have got some limitations. If you have virtual, you can take snapshots, and if you have physical, you can't take snapshots, but the advantage is the disk from storage directly, which the LUN is presented from the storage, is directly available for the guest operating system, and the guest operating system can directly store the data. What we are doing here is we are eliminating the ESX host. We are not actually attaching to the ESX host. We are actually attaching the physical RDM raw device mapping to the guest operating system. So we'll see it in our demo when we go through the demo. Okay, so how do we attach it? It's quite simple. The process is quite simple, but it is a little bit complex when you're doing it for the first time. So if you're doing it for the first time and you haven't done it, you need to understand two things. Especially with Microsoft clustering, what we have, if I want to draw quickly here, so you have two servers, which is the guest operating system, and they can be running on different ESX host. So you have one host here, example, and another one here, and these two are running on two different hosts. So for RDM, again, it is presented from storage. So this RDM, which is presented from storage, you will basically attach it to the A node of your cluster, which is the primary node always. And once this is attached, what you do is you do a mapping file, which VMware calls it a mapping file, and you browse and attach that from the data store where the A is running from. So basically it reads the same disk which is here, but actually we are only going to attach it to the A node always. So the B node, basically we are going to just browse and attach the mapping file. Obviously I will show you when we do the demo as well, so you will understand it a little bit more. What we will not be doing is basically logging into the OS and just bringing it online and formatting it. That's something which your Windows administrators can do, or you can obviously check out a demo which I have done on how to attach, how to format a disk, how to bring a disk online, and that will cover that part. Anyway, so hope you understood this, but let's go through it again. This topic is very important to understand. So for your A node, which will be the primary node of the cluster, you will basically attach this RDM. So how you do that is right click on the VM, edit settings, go to add device and select RDMs here as I shown, and then what we do is once you click RDM, you will see the presented disk from your storage. Be sure to find out what is the LUN ID from your storage team, because then if you have multiple disk which are of the same size, it is always confusing, and you might end up attaching a wrong disk and causing a outage on your production environment. So make sure you find out exactly the LUN ID which you are going to present. In my example, I'm going to use 13 here. Again, it's 100 GB as well. So let's see. So that's the one I'm going to select. So let's go next. So in compatibility, when we attach it, once you attach the disk, you will you can expand the new disk, and you'll find compatibility mode. So in compatibility mode, you have physical and virtual. As you can see, physical allows the guest operating system to access the hardware directly, which is the main advantage which we are having here. So we are eliminating the ESX host, so it's not provisioned as a VMDK anymore. It's actually the disk is directly attached to the guest operating system, and you're actually going to talk to from your guest operating system. The guest operating system is actually directly talking to the physical hardware of your storage, so that's directly talking to the hardware. Okay, and again, I was talking about pros and cons, right? So one of the biggest disadvantage of having a physical RDM is you cannot take snapshots. You can take snapshots in a condition where you have virtual RDMs, which is this other option here, but when it is physical, you can't. So the other option, as I was talking, virtual RDMs allows the virtual machine to use VMware Snapshot and other advanced features, but not the physical one. And usually for Microsoft clustering, you will need the physical mode only. So you will be having that limitations on the SQL clusters, I'm afraid. So that is always going to be there. Another thing which you might need, as I mentioned in the earlier slides, is you need a separate SCSI controller. So by default you have a SCSI controller 0, which is added always, which will be there, and you'll be having your other disk like disk 1 and disk 2 we have here, which are added already. But when you're adding the RDM, be sure to add a disk controller first. So you have a separate disk SCSI controller, SCSI controller 1 perhaps, because you already have a 0, you will have a SCSI controller 1. And once you have the SCSI controller 1, you can select the bus. So you need to use a different SCSI bus, as I was talking about, and it has to be different from the current virtual disk bus. So this SCSI controller is 0 for 1 and 2, but we will not be using this one, so that's wrong a little bit. I didn't add a new controller here, but we will be doing that in the demo. So when we add that, you then need to basically select from 1:0, which will be the first bus, and then if you have a second RDM, you can give 1:1, which will be literally the drop down next one available for you. So in our cluster, basically we have our storage, and we have virtual machines running here. So you can assume you will have your A node and B node running on this ESX cluster. So we will be assigning the RDM, B node will be here, right? So you'll be assigning the RDM to the B node. So let's erase that. Let's quickly write down B node. Okay, so hope you understand this concept, and let's do a quick demo, and you'll understand it in a little bit more detail. Okay, so I'm logged into my vCenter here, and we will be using these two servers, and also we need to make sure we have powered off these virtual machines beforehand. The entire cluster, which is A and B node, active and passive cluster. Over here I haven't configured Microsoft cluster or anything, but for the purpose of the demo, we will show you how to attach the RDMs. But if you are doing clustering, you need to work on creating a cluster. After you create 2 VMs, you need to create a cluster within those, and you can do the compatibility check and everything once you create the cluster. But for the cluster, again, as I said, you will need a Quorum disk, which will be a shared disk in between these two VMs. Okay, so let's get started. So I am assuming my A node is going to be my primary, so I'll right click and edit settings. Now, as I said, I don't have a SCSI controller, a separate one. I do have one here, which is 0, but I don't have a different one. So let's attach a SCSI controller first. It will be a quick one. Okay, so that's attached. You can see it here. And there are a couple of options here as well. We can have VMware ParaVirtual, LSI Logic SAS, which is the default one. Let's leave it on the default. Now once that is attached, let's click OK. So that's saved, and then we are going back in again. Now we'll be adding the RDM. Okay, click on add new device and then RDM disk. As you can see, as soon as you click RDM disk, you will see all the disk available. Now there might be a situation when you're unable to see the disk which your storage team has provisioned, in which case you need to right click on the ESX host and rescan the cluster rescan the ESX host or the entire cluster from the top level, so all the hosts are able to see the new disk provisioned to these hosts. Okay, so we will be selecting 13 for our demo. Click on OK, and now once you click OK, you can expand this. As you can see, by default this has already selected that it is on a physical mode, but there is an option for you to change it to virtual. If you leave it on physical, you can directly the guest operating system can directly talk to the storage hardware. Okay, and this is pretty much it, but I need to show you how virtual device node. So this is a virtual device node over here. So let's see whether we can change it to controller. See, these are the controller which we have added now. You can see the controller 0, which is the default one, which has the VMDK, the C drive and the D drive. So we will switch to the controller 1, which means this one, and then by default it has selected 1:0, and then you also have 1:1, 1:2, 1:3. So if you're adding another RDM, then obviously you can select the new next one available, which is 1:1, SCSI Controller 1:1. So for now, leave it on this one and click OK. And that's it. So you have attached the RDM. Now what we have to do is we have to make sure we know where this disk is actually connected to. So if we go back in and we click on this disk, you can see it is grayed out and you can see the physical LUN and you can see this. So this means this is an RDM. Now it doesn't come up when you click on disk 1. You will see that it is thin provision and it has a VMDK. So this is a VMDK, and this basically differentiates a virtual disk, which is a VMDK disk, when compared to the RDM. And if I click on disk 2, which is also a VMDK, you can see it and it's sitting on this data store. So we know the OS is running from the data store, which is MGMT DS01. So this is another thing we need to check before we do the next mapping file. So MGMT DS01. So this is where this disk is attached, the first and second. But sometimes you may have that you have two different disks and they are sitting on different data stores. So to find out, we need to find out where is the actual disk run, where is the actual config file, the VMX file, which we call. So if you go to options and general, you'll see where is the actual VM running from. So the VM is actually running from the same, in my example it's running from the same data store, but you can have, the disk split across different data stores as well. And that by default VMware keeps it in the same location, but we can obviously spread it across if you are having any problems. So that's all here, guys. So the only thing we needed to note is where this disk is, or where this VM is running from, which we now know it's running from management DS01. So once you have this details and you have done attached the RDM and you made sure the virtual device node is now coming up as disk controller 1, and it's on SCSI 10, which is the new hard drive which we attached. Click on OK. Now you have to go to the passive node, which is the B node. Click on it and then edit settings. Now here we don't go and attach this disk again, because the disks are going to be available there. Although you have attached it, they will always come up as available when you scan and when you basically go and go to add a new data store, you will see those there. So make sure you do not actually touch them. And also I would recommend, once you attach to the cluster, you rename it, so you know that this disk is belonging to this server. So I will show you how to do that after we are done. And we can also label it with whatever drive letter you have, whether it's a log you're storing log files, or if it's a Quorum disk, whatever it is, you need to just rename it, and I'll show you how to do that later. Okay, so over here what we are going to do is we are going to say add a new device. However, we are going to say existing hard drive here on the passive node. Always select the existing hard drive, and then basically select the data store and expand it again, and we need to browse to our VM. Now this is going to be a little bit confusing because I renamed this VM to server 19A, but it was actually named as Win01 first, I think. So quick way to check it, let me go back and see what is the name. I forgot to check the name. I have renamed it to server 19A, right, but it was actually called, before I renamed it, server 19. Okay, so it does say server 19, VMDK is called that, but it was originally called Win01. So this name, when you rename a virtual machine, you need to do a storage vmotion for this folder name to change. So at the moment, for the purpose of the demo, just assume that I have done this is the right name and you don't have that issue on your environment. But for me, I need to look for this VM, which is Win01 in this class in the data store. So right click again, Win-01 is the server I'm looking for. Attach existing disk. Okay, there you go. So the new disk which I attached is this one, and it says 0 KB, as you can see. Once you attach it, once you select it, you can click on OK. Also add the SCSI controller, which we forgot, SCSI controller. And when we expand this, you just need to select this SCSI controller. New SCSI controller, yeah, there you go. So instead of adding it at that point, I think we can just do it from here. So there you go. So I don't want this one, then just remove this. New SCSI controller, and it's 1:0 hard disk, which is good. Click OK, and that's pretty much it. When you boot the OS, then you can basically use the primary node, power it on, and then basically go to disk manager and then right click on the disk and bring it online. And from there basically you should be able to bring it online and then format it. Once it is formatted, basically you can use it as a Quorum disk or log disk or whichever disk you want for your SQL cluster. Hope you enjoyed the demo, and if you do want to practice this, I can help you with your own lab. I am actually offering a hands-on lab for people who are unable to spin up their own labs and practice at home. So if you do have issue with your lab and you can't spin up the lab, you can contact me and I can provide you an online lab. Just email me at ibrahimqureshi@agileops.co.uk and I'll be happy to help you with that. Some of the links which I want to refer to you is a really good VMware article which basically shows you how to do this, and it's a KB article, raw device mapping for local storage, and this basically takes you through all the information on how to do it, but more specifically how to attach the RDM, which is add, edit settings, select a disk, and then use the existing virtual disk for the second node. You should now see the new hard disk in the virtual machine inventory as a mapped raw LUN. So for seeing it again, if you go to the second VM and check where it is running from again, so it's running from here and here, so let's assume it is here because the original one was there. Now you can see, actually there's an easy way to do that. So when you edit, right click and edit again, and you check your disk, disk 2 is showing, it's pointing to, this is the disk which we added, disk 3 sorry, and it is pointing to the other VM which is the Win01, which I basically had it named as Win01 previously. So that's what it is showing. So it's basically the disk 3 on this server is pointing to the other server. It would have made a little bit more sense if I did a storage view motion beforehand for you guys, but yeah, it was taking too long, so I thought let's quickly do this demo. But in general, this is the concept, guys, so hope you understand it, and if you do have any questions, comment on below and I will have a look, or I will redo a quick session with the right name maybe at some point in the future. Hope you enjoyed today's session. Feel free to comment and subscribe to my channel. And quick question for today is what is the importance of shared storage? Let me know in the comments below. If you haven't checked out my blog is agileops.co.uk, and you can follow me on Twitter. My Twitter handle is Ibrahim Qureshi. You can send me a direct message and say hello, and if you have any questions you can message me there, and don't forget to subscribe, hit the like button and notification bell to get all the new updates from me. Enjoy watching and keep sharing, guys. Cheers, bye.
Thank you very much for watching. Comment on below and let me know if you like today's topic. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the like button, and hit the notification bell to get all new updates from me. My blog is agileops.co.uk. Be sure to subscribe to my blog because all the videos which I am covering on my YouTube channel, I'll be posting blog posts around it, so you can follow with step-by-step instructions with screenshots. I would love to hear from you, so you can follow me on Twitter and send me a message on Twitter, or you can send me a direct message at Ibrahim Qureshi, as you can see here. Enjoy watching and keep sharing. Cheers, bye.